The Terra Nova drifted through the black silence of interstellar space, her hull gleaming under the pale light of a distant sun. For 3 months, Captain Jake Morrison and his crew had followed the Council signal, an encrypted beacon older than Fava for nonce. Captain Jake Morrison and his crew had followed the Council signal, an encrypted beacon older than human FTL capability, hoping it wasn't a trap, praying it was real. Now, suspended before them, a ship larger than anything Earth had ever dreamed of pulsed like a living jewel in the dark, silver and smooth. The alien vessel wasn't built, it was grown, or so it seemed. Its surface shimmered like liquid starlight, impossibly sleek and entirely without seams. It dwarfed the Terra Nova 100 times over, not in menace, but in majesty. On the bridge, the air was tight with anticipation. "Captain," said communications. Officer Kelly Adams, her voice trembling despite herself, "We're receiving a transmission. It's them." Jake stood slowly. He was young for a captain, barely 40, but his spine held the weight of Earth's flag like iron. "Put it on the main screen." The forward holodisplay shimmered into life. A figure emerged from the blue, Hayes tall, graceful, and otherworldly. Its skin glowed a soft silver blue, like moonlight diffused through ice. Large, luminous eyes held no malice, only a strange serenity. And when it spoke, the voice that came through the translator was calm, clear, and undeniably intelligent. "Greetings, people of Earth. I am Zix Theta of the Valtari. We speak for the Galactic Council, and we have been waiting." Gasps broke across the bridge. Kelly covered her mouth. Jake's chest tightened. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth vessel Terra Nova," he said, steady but awestruck. "We come in peace, hoping to learn ... to understand what lies beyond our world." Zix Theta inclined his head in a slow, elegant motion. "We know of your peaceful nature. Your species shows promise. The Council has observed your growth. We believe you are ready to join the greater union of civilizations." On Earth, the feed was transmitted live across every nation, every time zone. In the subterranean command center beneath Geneva, President Maria Gonzalez sat frozen before the massive screen, flanked by her top advisors. Dr. Alex Turner, gray-haired and wide-eyed, whispered, "They've been watching us for decades, maybe centuries. They chose now," Admiral Lisa Carter said flatly. "Why? They're offering unity," Turner replied. "Medicine, energy solutions, starship schematics beyond anything we've built." Carter's jaw tightened, "And they want something in return." Commander Ben Hayes didn't speak. He stood back, arms crossed, eyes narrow. The intelligence director had read more alien dossiers than anyone alive. He watched Zix Theta's face, not the words, not the gestures, but the gaps, the pauses, the questions not asked. Back on the Terra Nova, Zix Theta spoke of advanced medicines, faster than light corridors, machines that could end hunger. "In exchange," the alien said, "we ask only that you respect our protocols. Share what you have. Limit your weapons while you integrate." Jake nodded, overwhelmed. "These gifts, they could save billions." "They are not gifts," Hayes muttered back on Earth, unheard by the cameras. "They're bait." 2 weeks later, the Treaty of Interstellar Integration was signed aboard the Council flagship. President Gonzalez held the stylus made from phylas, a crystalline alloy mined in the Triary cluster. Across Earth, people cheered, cried, and prayed. Admiral Carter shook hands, smiled for the cameras, but didn't let go of her doubt. Commander Hayes stood at the edge of the viewing platform, his gaze fixed on Zix Theta in the crowd. The alien smiled. Hayes didn't. "Something's wrong," he whispered. Earth had changed. Not gradually, immediately. The day the treaty was signed, the world felt lighter. Cities erupted in celebration. Children pointed at the skies where council ships glided in low orbit like silent gods. News feeds ran loops of Zix Theta shaking hands with President Gonzalez. People called it the Day of Joining. Within weeks, atmospheric drones carrying alien medicine cured ailments once thought chronic. In Lagos, a blind girl saw her mother's face for the first time. In Mumbai, waste converters based on alien schematics turned rivers drinkable in a month. In Brazil, energy pylons lit entire favelas with nothing more than atmospheric ion pulses. Humanity rejoiced. But beneath the jubilance, in corridors of steel and silence, doubt stirred. Lieutenant Katie Brooks stood alone in the cargo bay of New Hope, one of the Earth Council joint freighters, going over the monthly shipping manifest. Her datapad blinked an error code. Again, 1,000 tons of rare metals, titanium, vanadium, promethium, were to be delivered monthly. The agreement was clear. Yet the actual log showed 10,000. She frowned. That can't be right. She pulled up previous months. Same thing. Massive discrepancies. Dozens of shipments rerouted through unlisted orbital platforms. Cargo volumes that should have required half the solar system's freighters to move. Katie brought it to her supervisor, Chief Logistics Officer Barrow, in a dim side corridor away from the station's prying ears. He barely glanced at the datapad. Orders come from higher up, he said with a shrug. Council makes requests sometimes, nothing to worry about. But we're stripping Earth, she pressed. We're giving them everything. Barrow looked at her, eyes tired. And they're giving us paradise. Let it go, Lieutenant. She didn't. Elsewhere, among the stars, engineer Ryan Clark drifted in zero-G, his boots magnetically anchored inside the alien-built research station Alethea. He floated before a console, frowning. The schematic before him was supposed to be Council propulsion tech, what they claimed to be their standard interstellar drive. But the configuration, it was archaic, inefficient, primitive. Earth had better drives under development in the Arctic. Black Labs, they're giving us junk, he muttered to himself, his frustration built over weeks. When he suggested optimizations to Council engineers, they smiled too politely and changed the subject. They're underestimating us, he later told his colleague, biologist Dr. Nicole Wright, over cold noodles in the station's quiet mess hall. Or hiding something. Nicole leaned in. Yesterday, I heard 2 Veltari scientists speaking in untranslated dialect. I caught the tone. It wasn't scientific. It was dismissive, cold, like a veterinarian discussing livestock. Ryan froze. You're sure? She nodded. Their smiles don't reach their eyes. They see us as something less. Thousands of kilometers away, in the depths of Earth's Strategic Intelligence Center, analyst Sam Rodriguez was decoding routine council transmissions when he hit a firewall embedded in alien code. His AI assistant flagged it as classified. Diplomatic registry. Sam bypassed it manually. What he found made his throat dry. Earth wasn't listed under member civilizations. It wasn't even in the diplomatic section. It was filed under Class 4, Resource World, Contained and Compliant. He checked the designation. The label was used for worlds conquered quietly. Economically drained. Integrated through illusion. He double-check. Then triple-check. Same result. His heart pounded as he opened a secure channel to Commander Hayes. In a subterranean bunker beneath Geneva, Hayes sat alone in his office. He listened in silence as Sam explained everything. The resource shipments. The positioning of our colonies isolated away from core council systems. The tech they're giving us, it's scraps. SIR were not allies. We're inventory. Hayes said nothing for a long time. He stared at the wall where a large display showed Earth's network of colonies expanding across fringe sectors territory assigned by the Council. "It's a cage," Hayes finally said. "They just padded the walls." Later that night, Danny, Kim sat surrounded by holographic projections in the underground crypto lab. He'd been tracking encrypted Council traffic for months. Most of it was harmless logistics. But one heavily layered packet had stumped his team. Tonight, it cracked. Inside was a transmission from the Council's High Planning Corps. It described Earth as a promising Class 4 labor source. It detailed an upcoming phase, systematic disarmament through treaties, population shifts under colonization incentives, and most chilling plans for processing centers camouflaged as long-term habitation modules. The file ended with a phrase that burned itself into Danny's mind: intelligent enough to operate, naive enough to obey. He stumbled back from the console, bile rising. This wasn't an oversight. It was a perfected process. The Council had done this before. Many times. He sent the entire file to Commander Hayes. The next morning, Hayes brought the data to Admiral Carter. She read it slowly, lips tightening with every line. "This can't be real," she whispered. "It is," Hayes said. "And it's already begun." Carter stood, walked to the reinforced viewport, looking out at the heavens, now glittering with Council ships and false promises. "They never saw us as equals," Hayes added. "They never intended to." President Gonzalez was briefed in a sealed meeting that night. No cameras. No aides. Only the barest circle of trust. She read the report in silence, her knuckles white around the printed pages. When she spoke, her voice trembled not with fear, but fury. "How many other species did they do this to?" she asked. "We don't." "No," Carter said. "But we're next." Gonzalez stood, the weight of the world pressing into her shoulders. "We need time. If we confront them now, we'll lose." We play along, smile, trade, nod at their speeches. And beneath it all? Carter asked. "We prepare," Gonzalez said. "If they want war, we'll give them one they'll never forget." In the shadows of Earth cities, in quiet labs beneath the moons of Jupiter, and in sealed bunkers carved into the bones of old mountains, the first sparks of resistance began to glow. The galaxy hadn't welcomed Earth. It had claimed it. But humanity would not go quietly. They met beneath the ocean. 100 meters below the North Atlantic, hidden behind layers of magnetic shielding and sonar disrupting currents, lay Site Orion, a black site facility built decades ago in preparation for a war that had never come until now. Inside the cold steel chamber, lit only by recessed red lights, a table of world shapers gathered. No aides. No cameras. Only silence, resolve, and the low thrum of the sea pressing down above them like a warning. President Gonzalez sat at the head of the table. Her hair was pulled back into a severe knot, her face pale but composed. To her right, Admiral Lisa Carter stood rigid in full uniform. To her left, Commander Ben Hayes wore black civilian clothing, his fingers steepled in thought. At the far end sat Commodore Jake Morrison, newly promoted after surviving first contact and now one of the most famous names on Earth. Gonzalez's voice broke the silence. "We're going to war. They just don't know it yet." The air in the room shifted. "We have 6 months before the Council moves to the next phase," Hayes said. "The final disarmament protocols. After that, they'll start relocating volunteer colonists. That's when the real processing begins." "How many know?" Morrison asked. "Only those in this room and a dozen cell leads globally," Carter replied. "If they suspect we're aware, they'll accelerate." Gonzalez stood slowly. "We need to prepare, in secret. Number. Broadcasts. No speeches, not even whispers." She turned to Carter. Begin Operation Dark Fleet. And with those 3 words, humanity's greatest deception began. The first ships were built in shadow. Asteroid BP 442, a barren rock drifting near Jupiter's orbit, became the cradle of Earth's rebellion. Under layers of rock and camouflage, drones and old mining station was reactivated. Steel returned. Welders worked in oxygen-poor silence. AI-assisted drones constructed bulkheads in record time. At the center of the effort stood Chief Engineer Rachel Stone, sharp-eyed, short-tempered, and brilliant. She held up a fragment of alien alloy and slammed it onto the table in front of her team. "They gave us this garbage," she growled, thinking we wouldn't see through it. "But I've taken apart every piece of council tech they handed us. It's outdated, over-engineered, full of exploitable flaws." She pointed to a holographic display. "Cracks high shields? 1 frequency band. We can scramble it. Loom-era energy weapons? Massive power draw, vulnerable to pulses." "Are we building better weapons?" an engineer asked. Stone smiled. "No, we're building weapons they've never imagined." Across the solar system, others moved to match her pace. On Titan, beneath the shadow of Saturn, a disused scientific outpost called Cradle Station roared back to life. There, Rachel's team worked on what would become humanity's greatest edge, the Sentinel-class AI combat network. "We need machines that don't just follow orders," she said to the darkened assembly. "We need minds that learn, fight, predict, adapt. Our enemies coordinate through hive minds and telepathy. Let's see how they handle pure calculation." Within weeks, the first Sentinel AI came online. It didn't speak. It didn't ask for a name. It only requested targets. Meanwhile, Commander Hayes spun a web of lies. He used the Council's own arrogance against them. Through diplomatic channels, Earth continued to send glowing reports of cultural exchanges, scientific cooperation, and resource compliance. He planted falsified signals to mask fleet movements. Satellites in Earth orbit were reprogrammed to echo harmless weather data. Human engineers sent carefully staged footage of Council-approved tech integration while, just outside the lens, dark-hulled warships took shape. Hayes met regularly with Sam Rodriguez, who was now intercepting encrypted council chatter with alarming efficiency. "They're planning a fleet-wide audit of our orbital defenses," Sam warned. "Let them come," Hayes said. "We'll show them exactly what they expect to see." "But what if they find?" "They won't, because they think we're children." Hayes glanced at a map of known council sensor sweeps. They forgot the first rule of conquest: never teach your prey how to lie. In a hidden complex beneath Mount Erebus in Antarctica, Dr. Nicole Wright and Dr. Alex Turner worked in unison. Their task: find the Council's biological weaknesses and weaponize them. They claimed to be post-war, Wright said, examining alien blood cultures under a holographic microscope. "But every species has a pressure point." "Valari?" Turner asked. "Telepathy only works with their own. They're flying blind when dealing with us." "Cracks high?" "Collective decision-making." "Shut down their signal relays." "They collapse." Turner nodded. "And the Loom era?" Wright hesitated. "Photosensitive neurology. Pulse weapons tuned to ultraviolet scatter their nervous systems." "Would it kill them?" "No, just disarm them." Turner leaned back. "We don't want genocide. We want survival." Wright's voice turned ice cold. "And freedom. For everyone." As construction surged and weapons research intensified, Captain Lucy Chun oversaw combat simulations in deep space, far from prying sensors. Her ship, the stealth destroyer Shadow Strike, was the first of its kind, invisible to Council scanners, agile, silent, and armed with weaponry that could burn through alien armor before their systems registered impact. Standing on the bridge, she watched her pilots, men and women raised on simulators, trained to think without patterns, rip apart mock council fleets with improvised maneuvers and calculated ruthlessness. They trained to fight each other, she told Morrison in a secure transmission. They never considered an enemy who learns. They will, Morrison said. Right before we bury them. 4 months passed, then 5. The fleet grew in the dark. Weapons were loaded. Maps were marked. Ciphers were cracked. And Earth continued smiling for the cameras. The Council saw a docile, grateful species, eager for guidance and gifts. They saw diplomats making speeches, scientists applauding alien miracles, and cargo bays full of offerings. They didn't see the ships hidden in the rings of Saturn. They didn't see the pulse weapons embedded in deep space stations. They didn't see the virus hidden inside their own communication protocols. They didn't see the trap. But Zix Theta was growing suspicious, and he was coming to Earth. Unannounced. With a full security team. As his ship broke orbit and prepared to dock with Earth's main orbital station. Alarms began to blink across hidden command panels. Admiral Carter stood at the edge of her command room, watching the data roll in. It's early, she whispered. Commander Hayes joined her, face pale. They're not waiting for the next phase. Carter's eyes narrowed. Then neither are we. They arrived without a transmission, no ceremony, no orbit-wide announcement. The Villari diplomatic cruiser drifted into Earth's orbital plane like a ghost. Its hull shimmered with living metal, silently ignoring every docking protocol. Its Escort 5 Council corvettes took up defensive formation around the station as if they expected resistance. Inside Orbital Station Harmony, Earth's largest civilian and diplomatic hub, sirens remained silent, but security teams snapped into motion. Admiral Lisa Carter was already en route before the cruiser had even docked. She rode the lift shaft from the station's lower command center, one hand gripping the rail, the other wrapped tightly around a folded data slate. When the lift doors hissed open, she stepped into the corridor like a general walking onto a battlefield. At the docking arm, Zix Theta stood surrounded by his elite council security officers in gleaming chrome armor, faces hidden behind translucent visors that shimmered with internal readouts. There was no smile this time, only calculation. Admiral Carter, Zix said, his voice smooth and sonorous. There has been ... concern. Carter kept her expression unreadable. You arrived without prior notice. That's a violation of council protocols. Protocols, Zix said gently, are for children who need structure. We are here to ensure ... compliance. Behind him, one of the officers opened the palm scanner. A beam of light sliced through the corridor. Security logs. Energy signatures. Passive scans, nothing obvious, but thorough. Aggressively thorough. Carter's mind raced. They were looking for proof. Your recent shipment logs, Zix continued, stepping forward, show minor irregularities, missing manifests. Unlisted. Reactor fuel shipments. Curious navigation routes through the Oort line. Carter smiled thinly. I'm sure it's a bureaucratic error. You're welcome to review the official records. Oh, Zix said. We will. What followed was not an inspection. It was an invasion disguised in diplomacy. Council officers moved through the station with surgical precision, scanning data cores, examining weapon caches, probing shield relays. They were polite, yes, but that politeness had the weight of a loaded weapon behind it. In Docking Bay 3, one of the officers paused before an auxiliary energy node. The readings didn't match the station's official schematics. He tapped his comm. Secondary readings show unusual harmonic residues. Carter, now in the command center, watched the alert flag red on her concealed console. That node powered a decoy reactor, one of many false systems built to hide the station's true capabilities. Too many anomalies, and the whole illusion would collapse. She activated a comm line to Commander Hayes. "They're getting close," she said. "I can stall them another 10 minutes. "No more," Hayes replied from a secure room where he was actively feeding the Council scanning AI's false data in real time. On the main viewing screen, Zix Theta turned slowly as a security officer handed him a glowing sphere, a trace core pulled from the node. It was supposed to contain dummy information, but the shielding hadn't fully engaged. It contained a ghost image of a stealth fleet signature. Zix's eyes narrowed. His mask cracked. He looked up toward the command center. "I would like to speak with you, now." The docking platform was quiet, sealed under lockdown, emergency lights casting sharp shadows across metal flooring. Carter met Zix Theta at the threshold. He held the trace core in his hand like a piece of evidence. "You lied to us," he said, softly, almost sadly. "You deceived us first," she replied, voice calm. "You smiled as you put chains around our necks." Zix's expression turned cold. "You violated the integration protocols. You've prepared for war." "No," Carter said. "You did. We just finally started catching up." Behind Zix, his security officers reached for their weapons. Around the docking bay, concealed panels snapped open. Human soldiers in adaptive armor emerged from hidden alcoves. Rifles raised, plasma rounds humming. Carter stepped forward. "I wouldn't do that," she said. Zix turned as the station's main viewing screens lit up. Dozens no. Hundreds of ships were uncloaking across low orbit. Human ships. Sleek, dark, angular. They hadn't been there minutes ago. Now they filled the sky. Around the Council cruiser, escort vessels blinked warning lights. Surrounded, outnumbered, outmaneuvered. Zix looked up. "Impossible," he breathed. Carter tapped her com. "General broadcast," she said. A technician nodded. "All channels. Open. Carter spoke 3 words. "Execute Darkstar Protocol." The galaxy ignited. From hidden bases on Europa, Phobos, and the icy crust of Ceres. Human warships burst from stealth. At the Council's logistics base at Kepler 9, a sudden flash lit the sky as stealth fighters dropped a precision gravity bomb on the main reactor node, disabling the entire fleet. In one blast. In the spiral trade lanes near the Callan Gate, 6 Earth-heavy cruisers emerged from a dark nebula, shredding a Council carrier group with rail-based kinetic weapons projectiles, moving fast enough to tear through shielding like paper. In orbit above the distant colony of Vallis Prime, Captain Lucy Chun's Shadow Strike materialized without warning and delivered a payload of sonic disruptors into a Krex High Command array. The Hive soldiers within screamed and collapsed, unable to think, unable to fight. The Council never saw it coming. On Earth, civilians watched in stunned silence. As broadcasts were interrupted, the illusion was over. Across the world, news anchors choked back panic as they tried to explain what no one had prepared for. The Council wasn't humanity's savior. It was humanity's captor. Earth had just declared war. Back aboard the orbital station, Zix Theta stood paralyzed. Carter stepped beside him. "You underestimated us," she said. "You thought we were too young, too slow, too fractured. But we did something your Council hasn't done in centuries." Zix turned, his voice trembling. "What?" Carter leaned in. "We adapted." Then she walked away, leaving Zix Theta in a ring of armed soldiers. As alarms howled through the station and war exploded across the stars, the age of deception had ended. The reckoning had begun. The sky was no longer dark. It blazed. In Sector 14K near the Kepler expanse, the stars were swallowed by fire. Flames licked the vacuum as the Council fleet based Terra Prime hub of logistics for half the galactic arm, collapsed in on itself, its reactor spines detonating in cascading eruptions of plasma and burning alloy. Commodore Jake Morrison, aboard the Earth dreadnought Retribution, watched the firestorm through the hardened bridge viewport. His jaw clenched, hands folded behind his back as reports came in. All Council command vessels neutralized. Enemy comm relays silenced. No civilian signatures within the blast radius. Clean strike. Morrison's voice was low, controlled. Move to fallback formation, Gamma. Begin jump prep for next sector. His officers moved like water, silent, sharp, fast. Behind him, the stars kept burning. The Council had made one catastrophic mistake. They thought humanity would fight like them. They were wrong. In the core systems, panic spread like a virus. Council fleets scrambled to respond, but their coordination shattered as Earth's attacks cut through their long-distance communication networks. Dozens of command nodes went dark in synchronized pulses, each silenced by Earth cyber warfare teams who had been waiting for this exact moment. Sam Rodriguez, deep in a data vault beneath the Andes, leaned over a pulsing interface. "They're blind," he said into his headset. "They don't even know where we're hitting next. They think we're everywhere." "Good," replied Commander Hayes. "Let them panic. Keep feeding false intel into their backups. Make them think we're twice the size we are." He paused. "No, 10 times," Rodriguez smiled darkly. "Time to make the galaxy believe in ghosts." Captain Lucy Chun was a ghost. Her stealth fleet, Shadow Division, struck like a curse. They emerged from dark matter pockets and ice fields, fired with lethal precision, and vanished before Council sensors could recalibrate. Over the crystal plains of Erianthus, a planet known for its floating cities and sculpted oceans, she led a squadron of cloaked assault craft through a frozen cloud. Beneath her, a Council weapons platform bristled with orbital defenses. Her voice cut through the comm line. "Drop point acquired. 5 seconds." The Whisper-class drones detached from her hull, shimmering as they descended in silence. They didn't fire missiles. They released disruptor clouds, nanite swarms that infected control grids, disabled reactors, and turned massive, unbreachable fortresses into inert scrap. The clouds descended like ash. The platform fell without a sound. The stars reflected off Captain Chun's visor as she turned to her officers. They said humans were primitive. Tell them we remember every insult. On the surface of Delta Reach 9, Major Helen Foster led the first coordinated ground assault of the war. Her target, Facility 7R, a colonization complex that Earth intelligence had confirmed was a disguised labor camp. They came in low. Atmospheric stealth shuttles threaded through cloud cover, their hulls painted in signal-scattering polymer. Her squad rappelled through the morning sky in synchronized silence. She landed in a crouch, scanning the prison yard below. Rows of humans and other species toiled under the whip of Council guards. Her comm lit green. "Go!" Stun grenades arced into the air. Precision shots took down perimeter sensors. Within 20 seconds, the walls were down. Within 40, the guards were on the ground. A minute later, Foster stood at the center of the compound. Her soldiers moved among the prisoners, shocked, emaciated, frightened. They'd been told they were pioneers, building humanity's future. Instead, they were slaves. One woman clutched Foster's armor. "You single quotes re ... "You're real?" Foster nodded. "We came back for you, all of you." Tears streamed down the woman's face as the skies above them thundered with Earth warbirds. On the Council's capital world, Ethris, Zix Theta stood before the High Command. The Council chamber, once resplendent with flowing banners and hovering gravestones etched with ancient victories, was now dimmed, draped in emergency lighting and locked security fields. The 12 sat In silent disbelief, They attacked our home systems, rasped the Crex High liaison. This was not supposed to be possible. Zix Theta didn't respond. He remembered Earth's orbital station. Admiral Carter's words. The fleet that appeared from the shadows like a judgment long delayed. They've rewritten the rules, said a Loom-era diplomat, glowing erratically. Their tactics, we can't predict them. Their AI weapons bypass our algorithms. Ships fight without hierarchy. They're not fighting like any species we've ever known, said another. They're hunting us. Zix finally spoke. They were never primitive. We were blind. Silence. And then the Velori elder, the ancient figure who had led the council for over 600 years, spoke from the shadows. Then perhaps they will finish what we began with so many others. Zix's voice was hoarse. No, they are not us. But if we do not change, they will burn us to the roots. Back aboard the Indomitable, Admiral Lisa Carter stood at the edge of the war table. Holographic galaxies spun slowly before her, marked in red and green. Targets neutralized. Worlds liberated. Systems in chaos. President Gonzalez's voice crackled. Through the secure channel. Status? We've struck 23 major targets. 7 more within 72 hours, Carter reported. We freed 6 colonies, thousands of human and non-human prisoners recovered. And our losses? Minimal, Carter said. For now. There was a pause. Then Gonzalez's voice, heavy with steel and sorrow. Lisa. They're going to counterattack. With everything they have. I know. And? Carter stared. Into the stars. Let them come. But humanity's strength wasn't just in ships and fire. It was in ideas. On liberated worlds, humans didn't raise flags. They shared food, water, tech, medical care. They taught. For every system they freed, Earth gained allies, even among the enemy. A Lumara scientist defected on day 45, bringing with her the Council's biological warfare protocols. A Crex High node severed from the hive began broadcasting. Encrypted messages to Earth intelligence, coordinates of hidden slave routes, even some. Velari began asking quietly what justice might look like after the flames. In a sealed data vault. Dr. Nicole Wright stared at a cold blue vial. Inside was Silencer 3, a tailored viral weapon designed to disable Velari. Psionics without harming human physiology. We said we wouldn't go this far, said Turner beside her. We said we wouldn't. Start here, Nicole replied. He looked at her. And how does this end? Nicole didn't answer, because she wasn't sure. Back in orbit over Earth, the sky was alive with movement. Warships moved in coordinated silence. Shadow fleets dispersed to new sectors. On the bridge of the Retribution, Morrison stood alone for a moment, watching the stars. They think we're monsters now, he whispered. Then to no one and everyone, let them. The stars burned with the light of a species that had been underestimated for the last time. The war had only just begun. The Council was fracturing. Once, its 12-member species had ruled the galaxy through harmony and consensus. But now, those same marble halls echoed with accusation, panic, and quiet betrayal. In the ancient chamber on Ethris, the ceiling that once shimmered with simulated nebulae now flickered erratically. Reports scrolled in dozens of them, each bearing grim truths. 87% of deep space communication relays offline, 14 primary supply chains disrupted, 16 garrison fleets missing, presumed destroyed. One name appeared in every report, every intercepted signal, every whispered panic. Humanity. They've weaponized unpredictability, hissed the Velari tactician, her voice trembling with suppressed fear. No pattern. No structure, just calculated chaos. "They fight like no other," said a Krex High emissary, its voice filtered through its hive relay. "Their units operate independently yet act as one. Our simulations cannot predict their movements. Even their AI cannot be read," growled a Loom-era elder. "No telepathy, no logic strings, just ... adaptation." And then came the final blow. A massive hologram unfurled at the center of the chamber. The Galactic Core Sector 01's the most fortified system in Council history. A beacon of civilization. Now under siege. Earth's fleet had arrived, and they hadn't come to negotiate. Above Council Prime. The sky split in half. Hundreds of human warships emerged from cloaked orbit. Battle cruisers with magnetic ram lances, destroyers trailing gravitic mines, and dreadnoughts armed with pulsar hammers, capable of cracking planetoids. At the heart of the formation sailed the indomitable Blackens Silver, crowned with kinetic batteries and surrounded by a sphere of pulsing light. Admiral Lisa Carter stood on her bridge in full dress uniform, flanked by Fleet Admiral Jake Morrison and Commander Hayes. The command deck was silent. Before them, the capital world spun serenely, still unaware of what was about to happen. "Begin transmission," Carter ordered. Across every frequency, civilian, military, diplomatic, her voice rang out, steady and cold. "This is Admiral Lisa Carter of the Unified Earth Defense Fleet. You stand accused of systemic enslavement, deception, and the exploitation of developing civilizations. You have 20 minutes to surrender unconditionally." She paused. "This is your final warning." On the surface, chaos erupted. The streets of the capital city, once lined with cascading light and levitating monorails, exploded in movement. Council citizens ran for shelter. Defense batteries lit up. Skywatch patrols launched, but none of it mattered. In orbit, Earth's fleet didn't flinch. They had come prepared for this. "Status?" Morrison asked, standing at the tactical console. Hayes answered without looking up. "Planetary shields activating. First layer is photon-webbed. Adaptive recharge. Council war doctrine expects us to hit with overwhelming force drain there." "Batteries. And we're not doing that," Hayes said. He tapped his comm. "Dr. Wright." Nicole Wright's voice came through the bridge. "Deploying Whisper Bloom now." Morrison raised an eyebrow. "That's the biotech package, right?" "It's not a weapon," Nicole replied. "It's a question." High above, a specialized torpedo opened in silent vacuum. Inside, genetically tailored seed pods based on stolen Council biotech. They scattered like spores, invisible to most sensors. When they reached the shield surface, they released a biochemical mist, harmless, inert, silent. Except to the Velari. The mist interacted with their neural web, causing violent psychic feedback. Suddenly, half the command centers on the planet went dark. Velari leaders collapsed mid-sentence. Fleet commanders screamed, "Dropping where?" They stood. Carter gave no order to fire. It wasn't necessary. Then Council did what they had never done before. They broke rank. The Krex High hive mind began pulling their ships away from the planet, retreating toward outer space. Without the Velari's coordination, the hive could no longer hold cohesion. The Loom-era warships drifted listlessly, unable to coordinate without the AI relays Earth had just poisoned. And then, one by one, the Council's remaining fleets began broadcasting fragmented messages: surrender, conditional, request humanitarian, terms, ceasefire. But humanity hadn't stopped moving, because this wasn't about ships. It was about what came next. On the far side of the capital world, Captain Lucy Chun and Major Helen Foster led the assault on the Citadel of Assembly, the Council's symbolic heart. They entered via orbital drop pods, plunging like meteors through the upper atmosphere, landing with bone-rattling force outside. The sprawling marble structure, Foster's ground troops moved fast, clearing resistance with flash charges and precision weapons. Chun's strike team hacked security towers and silenced orbital defense uplinks within minutes. Inside, stunned delegates cowered behind curved benches and shattered glass. Helen Foster stepped into the grand forum, her armor scorched, her weapon humming. Behind her, liberated prisoners marched in silently. Humans, alien civilians, even defected council officers. One former slave spoke to the assembly, voice raw with fury. "You called us children. You called us cargo." She raised a hand toward Foster. "You woke us up." Above, in the command room of the Indomitable, Carter received a direct transmission from the surviving council delegates. Zix. Fata was among them. His once gleaming robes were torn. His voice, so melodic, so calculated, was hoarse. "We surrender." Carter watched him for a long moment. "No conditions," she said. He bowed his head. "No conditions." Hours later, President Gonzalez appeared on every major frequency in the galaxy. Her face was drawn, but her voice was unshakable. "The Council is no more. Effective immediately, Earth will oversee the transition to a new galactic order built, not on domination, but on freedom, equality, and accountability." She looked directly into the camera as if through it. "To those who helped us, you have earned our respect. To those who opposed us, you have earned our mercy." She paused. "But if you ever attempt this again, know that Earth remembers." They feed ended, and across 1,000 worlds, species who had never known hope wept. In orbit, Carter stood once more before the main VIEWPORT. Morrison joined her. "So," he said, "we did it." "No," Carter replied, "we survived. Now we have to build something better. And if we fail?" Carter looked at the distant stars. "Then the next species will rise up. And remind us." Back in the ruins of the council chamber, Zix. Fata sat in silence. He stared at a small human artifact recovered from one of Earth's first embassies, a chess piece. A knight. He turned it over in his hand. "You never fought to win," he whispered. "You fought not to lose. And that made you unstoppable." He looked up at the ruined ceiling, stars peeking through. "What are you?" But he already knew. The war was over, the Empire had fallen, but the galaxy was only just beginning to learn what it meant to live under truth, and under Earth's watch. The stars had never been so quiet. 5 years had passed. 5 years since the Council's banners were torn down, since the last slave camp was freed, and the last planetary governor surrendered to a fleet bearing Earth's sigil. The galaxy had not forgotten the war because Earth had made sure no one would. Yet there were no statues of human conquerors. No celebrations carved in metal. Instead, there were structures, rebuilt cities, clean water towers, artificial suns over once barren worlds, and learning centers where children from species once locked in generational fear now learned together. It wasn't peace that stunned the galaxy. It was Earth's restraint. Admiral Lisa Carter stepped off the shuttle onto the gray landing pad of Earth's command complex in Geneva for the first time in over 2 years. The winds off Lake Geneva still smelled the same. But the world had changed around it. Her uniform bore no medals, just a black patch over her heart, the symbol of the Galactic Cooperative, the new order Earth had founded. A young officer saluted. "Welcome home, Admiral." Carter didn't smile. She walked past the honor guard in silence. Inside, the halls had been updated, sleek walls with etched quotes not from generals, but from philosophers. Above the entrance, one quote pulsed softly in pale light. "Victory is not the end. It is the beginning of responsibility." In the Central Council chamber, President Maria Gonzalez presided over a delegation unlike any in history. Representatives from over 400 worlds filled the chamber, their faces scaled, furred, feathered, crystalline. No longer divided by superiority or species. Now bound by law. The new galactic charter drafted by humans, but ratified by all, prohibited systemic inequality, slave economies, forced colonization, and exploitative technologies. Enforcement came not through threat, but through trust. And when trust failed, the fleets of the cooperative stood ready, not to conquer, but to intervene. The delegates stood as Carter entered. Gonzalez gave a nod of respect. We were just discussing the Valari initiative. They wish to rebuild their telepathic sanctuaries on shared territory. Carter raised an eyebrow. You trust them? Not yet, Gonzalez replied. But they're asking. That's more than they ever did before. Later that evening, Carter walked alone through the gardens of Etheris, a biosphere built from the salvaged bones of the Council's old capital. Vines grew through ancient archways. Birds from 3 different worlds shared branches without fighting. Old marble was overgrown but alive. She found Dr. Nicole Wright sitting on a bench beneath, a living pillar of stone and roots, feeding translucent song beasts with flickering feathers. They still fear us, Nicole said softly. They should, Carter replied. But they're also watching, Nicole added, learning. Building schools, hospitals, giving voices to species that never had them. Carter sat down beside her. And if they turn again? Nicole didn't answer. She didn't have to. Both women knew the truth. They would act. Again. If they had to dot in the old orbital yards above Mars, Fleet Admiral Jake Morrison supervised the dismantling of the last war-era dreadnoughts. Ships that had broken planets now stood hollow, stripped of weapons and re-engineered into medical frigates, research arcs, exploration vessels. A young alien engineer barely older than 20. In Earth years asked Morrison, why not keep them? Just in case? Morrison looked at the warship's pitted hull. It bore the scar of his first engagement. He could still remember the screaming from the cum channels. We're keeping what matters, he said. The will to fight for what's right, not the firepower to dominate. He paused, but we'll remember how to build them. If someone forgets why they were torn apart. Elsewhere, Commander Ben Hayes, now Director of Galactic Intelligence, watched a set of reports scrolling past. Minor rebellions. Whispers of corruption in border systems. Remnants of the old guard trying to claw their way back. Hayes wasn't concerned. He had eyes in every sector, agents embedded across the stars. And his department no longer acted alone. Every major species had joined Earth in sharing intelligence. Justice and vigilance. In his office sat a single relic, a burnt copy of the original integration protocols. He never looked at it, but he refused to destroy it, never forget. A monument stood on the moon, carved from Council alloy and Martian stone. No names, no banners, no flags, just a single phrase etched in every known language. We were the last to be deceived. In her Geneva office, President Gonzalez received one final report. Dr. Alex Turner had completed his research. He'd cataloged the biological, cultural, and technological remnants of over 42 enslaved species. Some had been wiped out entirely. Others now lived again, rebuilding on worlds Earth had granted back to them. And in the last line of his report, he wrote, "We inherited a galaxy full of ghosts. We gave them voices. The galaxy kept spinning. New colonies blossomed under shared suns. Trade routes open not from exploitation, but from cooperation. Diplomats, not generals, became the new heroes, but Earth's fleets still patrolled the stars. Not as conquerors, not even as rulers, but as reminders of what happens when you chain others, lie to their hope, and mistake kindness for weakness. The humans had not set out To rule the galaxy. They had only refused to be ruled. And in the deepest reaches of space, in a black nebula known only to long-dead civilizations, a single ancient station blinked back to life. A coded signal buried beneath Council encryption was decrypted by a machine not seen in a million years. Humanity. Tier ascendance confirmed. Custodial protocol override initiated. Somewhere in the void, metal titans stirred, and the stars began to whisper again. But this time, they whispered Earth's name.